3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 47. How are you doing, Dom?
It's amazing. It is amazing how we just keep on going. Because I was just asking you there quickly, how long have we been going? How long has this been going?
Episode 47, and we started beginning of 2019.
We've
so
been
just over a year.
Going in dry since 2019, bringing it hot and live at Chasing the Racing. Opposite me is the amazing teacher's pet, teacher himself now, Chrissy Rouse. How are we doing, son?
Not too bad. Obviously, as we're in self-isolation or quarantine or whatever it's called.
Week are we in now? It just all blurs into one, man. Is this week 4 we're going in?
I think we're something like that. But I was just going to make the point exactly that. Everything just seems to be blown into one. Weekends, weekdays, I don't know. It's a weird old place at the moment. I've just been for a walk. Lovely day today. And what a lovely atmosphere there was around the village. I don't know if it's just because everyone's off work and not stressed or whatever, but everyone seemed to be so friendly. Morning, afternoon, whatever, just people painting the fences, sunbathing, just getting the daily walks in or whatever, and there seemed to be like a real community spirit going on.
But I tell you what, we'd like to know the really harsh reality of this, right? All of the opening rounds for myself, so I was doing Brands Thundersport down at Thundersport down at Brands. That would have been my first time there at the track, gleaming sunshine. Weekend gone, I would have been at Croft at the North East Club with all my mates, gleaming bloody sunshine. Guess where you should have been this weekend, mate?
I know.
Obviously, we're not trying to get the suicide rate up after listening to the show, but guess where you should have been?
I know, I first found the BSB, but not to be this year. Anyway, you've got a sponsor. You've got a sponsor sorted.
Let's just brisk over that one. There we are.
You've got a sponsor sorted for this episode?
This episode is by my good friend Hayden Gibson at HG Concepts. Good man, obviously he just loves to polish a helmet, that man, you know what I mean? He interferes with everyone's helmets on a regular basis to the point of people actually, delivering their helmets through his letterbox, and he's polishing it from there. He's a top man and he's a top sponsor. So no, thank you very much to Hayden. And to be honest, his work is coming on absolutely leaps and bounds. I know that makes it sound like he's shit, but he's far from it. Like his first stuff, right? He did my lid, and sadly I took all the paint off it on our first episode, Missing Digits, and I lost my finger, but I took all the paint off it. And now I've still got the remnants of that job. And he's done a Macau lid for us. He did me last year's lid, and he sponsors a few riders now, and he's doing pretty much everyone. Like he's doing like Craig Neves lid, the detail in that this year. He's done a fair few for Richard Cooper, and his list has got Maria Costello. I'm trying to think who else he's got in the BSB. I think he's actually got someone in MotoGP. He'd be killing me if I've made that up. Not MotoGP, Moto3. I think he's got someone on that side of things. But anyway, his work is coming on massively. And when you look at the competitive pricing of it, it is phenomenal. Because you go to a different sprayer, don't you? You've got a lifetime... Well, you've been committed to one man for a kind of while, haven't you?
Yeah, a year or so. A lad from Doncaster KW Paints that does my paints. But yeah, it's for basically all whether club racing or BSB or even if you just ride on the road, if you want to buy a normal helmet, like a plain helmet, you can take it to these guys. And whereabouts is Hayden based?
He's based in Leeds, but obviously he's all over the social media. He's on the Facebook, Instagram and Twitter.
Drop it off and basically have a custom design exactly. So you have your trees and whatever, and get a custom design exactly how you like it.
Well, he did me a custom one for the Classic TT with a bulldog smoke and a pipe. Or like a World War II Spitfire. He even had the blue underlined belly, because that's what Spitfires actually had, the remnants of sky when they were flying over the top. And you just give him free rein, and the work he comes up with is absolutely phenomenal. And his pricing, like I say, is absolutely brilliant. But no, drop my line, have a check, get some likes on the old Facebook, the old FaceTube, and see what he's got for you, kids. See what he's got for you.
Smashing. So we've got a few things coming up. We've got an interview with Richard Cooper. With it being episode 47, Richard actually got in touch a while ago and said...
The vain swine.
And said he's very kindly offered a really nice prize. I won't spoil it now. He can talk about it later, but he's put something up for one of our lucky listeners. So we've got an interview coming up with Coops, a few other bits and pieces. Last episode, you offered 2 watches for
Yes, from Synergy Watches. Yep.
Yeah.
So nice giveaway for 2 watches.
and all they had to do was a home barber and have a go at home barber and take a picture of the evidence and send them in. And you've been scrolling through all the social medias there. Have you come up with so we've got 1 male, 1 female. Have you sorted a winner?
Definitely, obviously, everyone's commitment was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. But as far as we'll start with the ladies first. Rhea Gibbons, honestly, the other half clipped the side of her head and did a proper shortcut on that. So Rhea, you have won that, my dear. And on that, I'm trying to think. Hold on, sorry. Let me guess which. That was on the Facebook platform. Obviously, you have a check on the comments to have a look at the photo for yourself. And we have picked someone from Twitter. Chris, I almost forgot your name there. So no, the winner is Ryan Husker 121. He's got a cracking photo of a mohawk that is as straight as my morals, Chrissy. I'm telling you, it's hellish. But his little young'un, obviously taking up his father's footsteps with a lovely proper like shark fin haircut. Brilliant photo, and obviously them two are gonna have to fight out over the watch though, and I'm not getting involved in that fight because they both look like handy lads. But Ryan, you are the winner for the male side of it. But honestly, thank you so much for everyone getting involved. It was a proper good bit of crack.
I was just going to say massive thanks to everyone that sent them in. I was really impressed with actually how many people have committed to the home barbering, and obviously as the weeks go on, I'm sure more and more people will be joining in. But thanks for everyone who sent them pictures in. I really did have a good laugh looking through them. Another thing, we've had quite a few people getting in touch recently with notifying that the fact that the Religion of Sport documentary is back on. I think it's on the TT website and also on YouTube. I'll repost the links for it. But obviously, Religion of Sport, you're a massive feature in that documentary, Netflix documentary, really professional show, about an hour long. And for anyone that hasn't watched it and that is into road racing, it's an absolute must. It's a brilliant watch, really, really good. Kind of shows the kind of follow Dom and James Hillier, and the show I feel the rawness, the rawness of what the TT is all about. And
the thing is, great documentary, and it was a huge opportunity. You know what I mean? When Joe Pack, who was part of the Manx Grand Prix radio team at the time, she put my name forward for being a gibbering gobshite, and obviously that's something that you've picked up on, Chrissy, and we've ended up chatting on shite in your living room. But no, it was a case of, it was a huge opportunity, and you just can't say no to these situations. Now, there's loads of competitors, and everyone in the paddock is a character. You've got to be a character in this paddock. But I'm going to be very honest. You've got to be honest with these things. It seems when you first watch it, it does seem to touch a bit on the morbid side. You know what I mean? A bit like, whoa, deaf. It's not. What the programme's getting across is why we do. There is so much passion behind this sport. And you've got all. I'm going to be honest. You've got all the bell ends out there. Like, I know it should be cancelled. This is a proper passion-driven event, and for that reason, you admire the riders, and it's But I think the Religion of Sport team there did a fantastic job of separating the two different worlds and the two different reasons of going. There's people there for the professional. There's people there trying to become professional like myself, and and it's it's a good documentary, and it's definitely well shot anyway. Proper. It's not just like off your phone, job. It's properly well
there's a few
documented.
There's a few technicalities that aren't quite spot on.
The true TT fan and road racing, motorcycle fans in general, that'll proper pick them apart. But for the rest of the world, that's what the audience is there for. The audience they're aiming at. That was very much something that was picking up on. So,
so I'll share the links for that. But like I say, in these times of sitting around the house, if you're looking for something to watch, that is definitely.
Speaking of times of sitting around the house, have you noticed how many bloody podcasts are coming out now?
I know.
It's pirate podcast world, isn't it? Who were the two MotoGP presenters that have started it?
Neil Hodgson and Gavin Emmett.
Bloody hell, man! You know me, I don't listen to them, but obviously, I've scrolled through a few bits, and they've had who have they had so far? Like how we're glorifying there, but every other podcast, but this is shit. You're listening to the perfect one, but no.
They started with John McPhee. I think I've listened to them all. Susie Perry, Guy Martin, John McGuinness, a few good guests.
I tell you what, the Guy Martin thing, I've heard bits and bobs of that, and Let me just start off on this. I think we've got a good guest lined up for next week. Obviously, I think I'll go into that side of it a bit more, and I think I'll get the ball rolling. And by the ball rolling, I think I'm just going to poke an angry dragon with a sharp stick here, and like touch base on the Guy Martin thing. I am a huge fan, and Guy Martin is such a big part of racing, and he is a huge success. Yes, he didn't win a TT, but you think, Ulsters, Southerns, BSB, Northwest, the man is a serious front. But he can almost be a tiny bit detrimental to the sport. But you see, detrimental is a strong word. That sounds like he's demolishing it. But he's so blind honest, and that's why he's such a national treasure. And like I say, I'm a huge fan. But he's like, my biggest success on two wheels was on a bloody mountain bike. Out of all the things he's done on motorcycles, everything that he's had to do with it, and you think, really he is an ambassador for the sport. Mm-hmm. And sometimes he's a bit like, oh no, I didn't like that. Oh no, screw this. So screw that. And I'm a little bit like, oh,
I listened to the interview, and he's been on record lots of times since stopping the racing. But
since he's stopped,
I know what you mean. He doesn't exactly glorify the whole the bike racing side of things, and he almost talks it down a little bit these days. Which for something that, like you say, one of the questions on that podcast was to do with what's the pinnacle of your, like the best thing you've ever done on two wheels, and it was some push bike race, which I'm sure would have been brilliant, but
for his personal goals, yes, mm-hmm. If that's how he feels, you can't take that away from him. I'm not slagging the man off, but you think as a huge ambassador for our sport, like, what?
It's I guess it's hard to get your head around, but I suppose he's a bit of a peculiar character, and that's why, like, you're not going to get an ordinary answer out of him. You're not going to get something you would expect. You're always going to get something a bit left wing, a bit weird.
And that's why we're all fans. Like I say, I'm a fan. You're a fan. And it's, but I do
not left wing on a political thing. I just meant like do you know what I mean? Like a something you wouldn't expect.
A swerve.
Like a curveball answer.
But like I say, we'll probably go into this a little bit more in the next pod. But he gets a lot of digs in. Mm-hmm. And every time he gets on these programs, he gets announced as Guy Martin TT Racer. And I just think sometimes he proper plays it down for something that he was such heavily involved and so passionate about.
He could do a lot more to big the sport up.
But he doesn't have to. And I think, you end up talking yourself round in a circle here, don't you? You think, oh, why is he doing this? And you think, oh, I can understand why. Oh, why is he doing this? Oh, I can understand. But on a personal gripe, but obviously listening to that particular bit, it was a bit like, oh, come on, you're thinking you're on a motorcycle podcast, but like we say, that's why people love him, and but I'll always be a fan of the man.
Another thing to keep people occupied, bike racing fans, if you're on Twitter, there's quite a lot of ex-racers that are doing kind of stories from the past, so they're just bringing up random like one-offs. So Whittam's doing a lot, Rob Mack,
Plater,
Colin Wright's been doing a few, Plater, Stavros, Mackenzie, loads of them are just putting so like random stories like from the 80s or the 90s or whatever, so they're good. My particular favourites, Whittam's has been excellent.
Oh well, he could read off a menu and make it funny, couldn't he?
I was just thinking as well, do you know, if you had to just do a random like little story on Twitter, can you think of anything that's happened to you funny or like funny story?
Well, nothing like being put on the spot there, Chris. I like your style. Oh God, there's just been that many different things. I tell you what, I'll never forget. Right, it was one of my first race meetings, and it was East Fortune, and we set the pork pie challenge, and it was like three of us, and the idea was we put a pork pie on the apex on the far side of the track where the marshals weren't actually at. And it's coming in the railway. Now, what we did, we put this pork pie and sent a photo to everyone. But it was miles off the apex. And obviously each race, and there was like 6 of us going for this pork pie challenge. And you should have seen how many near-death experiences we're doing because we put it so early. But the aim of the game was to put your knee down on the pork pie. You couldn't just run over it. It was right in the chevrons. And the best thing is, you used to pedal over to the other side of the track when your race wasn't on, and you could just see 2 or 3 lads just proper going so early at the apex and just looking for a pork pie, then going, there and just slamming it down and trying to wipe everyone out. But no, that to be honest is a shit story, and that's not even funny. But I just remember that as a memory that tickles my pork pie. Because what's your crack?
Years ago, when I was doing Super Teens, the very first year I was racing, one time we were at Cadwell Park, and back then in Super Teens there was loads of you and you're all playing out on your BMXs and stuff and just trying doing whatever. And do you know? Have you been to Cadwell? You've been at Cadwell Park, haven't you?
Oh yes,
yeah. Do you know the woodland section in the middle? We just went off on our push bikes through there, and we found this like a left really old ambulance, and it was all open and everything, so we opened it up.
Hold on, was it like just abandoned?
Yeah, like an abandoned, unused ambulance, and we ended up taking. Do you know the chair on the back with the what would you use to pick up riders?
Yes,
yeah, we ended up taking that out, and we were strapping each other onto the chair, and when we were doing laps, and we were going up to the top of another gooseneck, and we were strapping each other to the thing, and then pushing down all the way down the hill there. And there was a lad called Adam Shelton. He was absolutely nuts. And he opposite the start finish straight, there's that big grass bank. He was taking it to the top of there, and we were trying to. Obviously, it kept tumbling over and just going, arse over tit. But that was good. Another story that, because I was just thinking about this the other day about what I would say. Really early on in my racing.
Oh, so you've prepped for this and put me on the spot. No wonder my story's crap.
Really early on in my racing career, I was riding for this guy that he liked to exaggerate everything, and
you're not dropping hints about me here, Chris.
No. So I was riding for this guy. Look, he's a lovely guy, lovely family and stuff. But do you know the type of person that just they want to impress everyone every time, so that
Billy Big Balls,
sort of bend the truth a little bit, and
Billy Big Balls.
Yeah.
There you go.
And so anyway, beginning of the season, so just got to know this guy, and after a few times of this happening, obviously you talk, and me and Dad were talking, and there's right at the beginning of the season, he said to us that he's just done a deal with this Grid Girl company, and the Grid Girls are going to be coming around to his race truck, and basically this Grid Girls company are going to use his race truck as a base to get changed and stuff. In return, they were going to Grid Girl for me on the BSB. So BSB, it was my first year of BSB. I was 12 or 13 at the time.
Just discovering yourself, Chrissy.
Anyway, right. So me and Dad were driving down to the race or whatever. And
hold on, Dad, your dad,
yeah,
your sperm donor,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. And my dad was saying, Chrissy, 100%, I bet you anything that doesn't happen. That'll just be total. Definitely won't happen. You know what my dad's like when he gets on one as well.
It's brilliant.
And he was getting all animated, saying about how much you bet that doesn't happen. That's just not going to happen. And anyway, so we get down to the race meeting, Sunday morning, race day, getting ready for things. All of a sudden, all these stripper-looking girls with all plastic and that turn up, and they're all coming in and out of the order and getting changed, just getting all the kit off, getting changed. Obviously, I was 13 at the time, jaw on the floor, and it did happen. And my dad had to eat humble pie.
I bet that wasn't the only pie you wanted to eat that day.
Honestly, that's so. I was thinking that's my story.
Oh, that is brilliant. Anyway, let's go for an interview here. You're lucky son of a bitch. You know what I mean? There's me talking about pork pie in Scotland, and you're you've got strippers all around you. I feel like a job reversal here, Chrissy. You're now the fun one.
Over to we've got Richard Cooper. It ended up nearly being 47 minutes actually. I think it's 43 minutes or something.
He's always good crack.
But listening and he's got a really good giveaway. We've got something else?
I was just about to add there. I was about to say, because obviously the Macau event looks like it may be on, but obviously we touch on that a little bit in this interview, and I think we'll just let it go from there, son.
Spot on. So over to Richard Cooper. So pleased to be joined by Richard Cooper. Obviously, episode 47, special number for Richard, and thanks for joining us on the podcast again. How are you doing, Richard?
I'm very good, mate, to be fair. It seems a lifetime ago that we actually spoke about doing this episode 47. I messaged you, I private messaged you and said I'd like to do something for the cast. It's something that I listen to everyone that you guys do. And I thought we'd sort of preempted that it would be around the start of the season, which we should be at Silverstone now, so it would have worked out pretty good to do episode 47, and here we are. But unfortunately, no racing.
Yeah, it would have been good to, because I was planning on getting the trailer done for first round, so it would have been good if we could have all done it together, like at Silverstone. But obviously, that's not the case. And how are you filling your time at the moment on lockdown?
It's a bit of a dream scenario for me, other than not getting paid to do it, because I spend a lot of time at home in my garage, doing things with bikes and making things look shiny and better than they come out the factory is my main aim. So the fact that I've had 3 weeks to pretty much do everything that's possible in the garage, and now I'm working on the garden and cleaning cars, it's not bad, I'm not one to moan about the situation. It is what it is, and we've got to deal with it, and we've got to just get on with it. And when it's time to go racing, be ready. That's all I can honestly say.
I love that. I love that. There's only 3 people happy right now that the apocalypse is done in here. I'm telling you. My dad, because he's knackered. You're on the mend, Chrissy, so you've dodged it. And obviously, he gets to be champion 2 years in a row now. You know what I mean? So obviously, let's delve into that. You've dodged a bullet there because you would have been ex-champion this time this year. Because obviously, I'm sitting next to Chrissy Rouse, and he was going to literally dish out some portions and, quite frankly, publicly humiliate you by wheeling on the back wheel, shouting, "He's a small man." It would have been poetic, mate. It would have been poetic. So, how are you feeling towards that open insult?
You know what? You know what? I looked into it, and every single person on social media, potentially this was their biggest year, which I find quite amusing, really, because it's not like you put any extra effort in to what we're already doing. Let's be honest, you train just as hard as the next person does, and he prepares just as hard as you do. And people make me laugh. They constantly think that this would have been their year, but I guess
it's Cooper, and it wasn't happening. There you are.
Well, and I just get on with it. And in 20 years of racing, I know that when it's right, it happens. And you can't buy that, you can't force that, you can't train any harder for that. If it's your year, it's your year. And last year was my year, and going into this year, let's say at the end of 19, going into 20, joining Baven's BMW, it was like, this is absolute perfect scenario for me. I'm back on a BMW. I'm with a team that Chrissy would probably agree is probably, if not the best superstock team in the paddock, in my opinion, and to a lot of other riders' opinion, for the outfit that they produce. And right at the right point where, like, age-wise and experience, I'm just like, I'm ready for it. Whoever is my next challenger. Mm-hmm. Last year it was Taylor, and if this year it's Chrissy, bring it on. I'm ready.
Oh, fight it! I love it. Go on, just get the claws out, lads. Get the claws out. Go on.
Like what Dom said. Obviously, it was kind of like a saving grace for myself after I had to go in for an operation. Like, I think it's about 4 weeks ago. So. Right. When I actually went in for surgery, the racing hadn't actually been cancelled then, so I was thinking, I'm going to be like injured for the beginning of the season and stuff. So it's kind of timing wise, it's been a massive saving grace for me. And but I've just been reading there I've just went for a little walk through the village. Lovely sunny day today, and I was just thinking that this is the first Easter weekend that I've not been at a racetrack in like as long as I can remember. Like every Easter weekend, it feels so weird just being at home. And I was just thinking the last time I can remember the first round of the BSB not going ahead was back in 2008 at Brands Hatch when it got snowed off.
Yeah.
Were you in the BSB championship then? Or?
No, you know what? It was one of my. It's quite funny actually, because it was one of my. Like, I was in between championships. I was trying to get back into the UK at that point. I've been in Europe a long time. I hadn't quite secured a ride. And you know what? That day, I was actually pit biking at a little track in Hull. And I'd been riding around all day, like I always do, as Dom knows, every session possible. And I was like, oh, wicked! When I get home, I'm going to watch the racing. Because it was sunshine in Hull, and I jumped
Which
in the
never
van.
happens, by the way, to all
Which
our
never
listeners
happens,
who
apart
have
from
never
that
been
day.
to Hull.
And I'd always got the bikes on record, and the plan was, go out riding myself all day, get back home, stick the bikes on, watch it on TV, and I jumped back in the van and sort of got a strange message and then a phone call from a mate, and he was like, "You're not going to believe this." And yeah, there was snow. I think my mate Scott Smart at the time was snowboarding down Paddock Hill, which was absolutely mental. So I wasn't there, but yeah, I think that was the last time it got cancelled.
That weekend was actually like a bit of a turning point for me, because up until then I'd been doing motocross and my bike got nicked. So me and my dad went down to Landau, a little go-kart track in South Wales, and we went to watch the mini motos and Metrokits, which was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. And then we had a night out in Cardiff, went for some food, and then we drove across to Brands Hatch, and as we were pulling up to Scratcher's Lane, the meeting got cancelled, and we had to drive all the way home, like over 3 miles. But yeah, crazy. Anyway, the toys that you've been messing on with, obviously I've seen that you picked up an Ovale recently, and you had a few goes on that towards the end of the season. I presume you've been spending a bit of time on the garage on that, and what other toys projects have you been working on?
You know what, I have. So I got the Ovale, which has been a long time coming, really, because I sort of got the bike and then sent it away to K-Tech, and they had the bike for a while, and then I got a bike back and I went riding, and now the K-Tech suspension's ready. I've sort of been trying to develop a few products for the bike alongside riding it, and I managed to get out 2 or 3 times, and last time I rode it was with Dom, actually, at the Elau Park track in Norfolk, and I can't talk about the little bike enough, really. I really do think it's a good thing what Hickey's doing, and it's good adult fun at the same time. So that's one bike I've got. What did I do? I basically built a complete bike out of spares that I had in my garage, which is a little CRF 50 like what I used to ride, and sold a bike, which is something I don't generally like doing because I like to just keep everything, but somebody offered the right money for a bike, so that obviously was a nice little bit of pocket money in your back pocket. So pretty busy. Like, the days are scheduled, training in the morning, in the garage most of the day, and then sort of catch an evening cycle, which has been really nice. And that's pretty much been me for 3 weeks.
Oh, well, it sounds bloody luxurious, to be fair. You know what I mean? Sounds bloody, almost gentle to me there, Mr. Cooper. It sounds bloody amazing. But I tell you what, I'm trying to figure out now. I forgot what I had for breakfast. Never mind the last interview we had with you. Now, between there and then, obviously you've won the title, and also you've been out to New Zealand. How was So you're tiptoeing really into a man sport called road racing. You're really taking them off the list here. And so you were planned to do Macau, and then obviously you went to. Now, was that the same time as the South Africa race? Let's talk about this a little bit. What you been up to, you sly little devil?
Yeah, I always like to keep busy. Last year went accordingly to plan. Northwest 200 podium, won the Superstock Championship. Went to the Sunflower, and
where you got handed to by Eden.
Well, 0.2, and if it wasn't for about ifs and buts and maybes, we would.
On professionals, Chrissy, because you can hear them going, Dominic, you shut the.
We took the fight to Christian, and at that time he had signed for PBM, and I was. In theory, I'm a Superstock rider that's jumping on a superbike for a weekend, and I took a fight to a BSB rider that's riding for the best team in the paddock.
Well, I was lucky enough to be there actually at the Sunflower event, and it was fantastic, man. You know what I mean? It was cold enough to keep your gin and tonic ice on the float. I'm telling you. was just you two literally. Hold on, was Buck in there as well?
No, it wasn't. It was me and Christian was if you like, the headline riders. They struggled to get numbers over, which is disappointing because it's a great event, as you well know.
Oh, well, I lost my finger there last time, and I absolutely loved the event. I'm not like I genuinely love it. You know what I mean? I was waving at you, and someone just said, "Put your hand down, you'll distract him." That's how I actually lost my finger. But
that was the end of October, and then I'd already scheduled to go to New Zealand. Not really knowing much about it, in all honesty. It was a bit of a 2 or 3 phone calls, and the ball was rolling. And
a proper last minute thing for you, though. You know what I mean?
It was probably mid-season when I got the first couple of phone calls regarding going over. But I didn't really. I wouldn't say I didn't take much note of it. It was a case of like, do you fancy going on holiday to Danielle and we'll race a motorbike a few weekends while we're out there? So it was a bit of a no-brainer. But like anything, I got a little bit competitive when I got there. No other European rider has ever done what I did. And we pretty much took the ball by the horns, if you like, and
because Hickman was there last year, wasn't he? Now he won a race there, didn't he? Yeah, the first time there, he was riding DJ Carl Cox's bike, wasn't he?
That's right. Yeah. So Hickman was the first international rider to win the Robert Alden Memorial Race, which is the road race. What you're thinking about?
Aye.
So
right, the series.
I won the series, and then the last race of the last day on Boxing Day was the Robert Alden Memorial, and then I won that as well.
I tell you what, can you briefly explain that championship, this series? It's a Suzuki series. How many rounds? Can you just briefly explain?
Yeah, it's a really, really good event to be fair. So it's the Tri Series. It's held over 3 meetings over the December period. So the first weekend of December is round 1, and just like what we do at BSB, we have a Friday free practice, we have a Saturday qualifying, Saturday race, 2 races on the Sunday. So it's scheduled pretty much like a BSB. It's run really well. So round 1's the first weekend, straight into round 2 the following weekend, at a different track. And obviously New Zealand's quite small, so you can do it in the sort of the South Island or North Island. I think it was North Island. There's one road that takes you to everywhere. It's an amazing place. So back-to-back weekends, first part of December. You then have a weekend off, and then that takes you into Christmas. So you have your last weekend of racing is slightly different because it's held over 1 day on Boxing Day, because that's the road race. They can't obviously close the track for 3 days. So the event's 2 short circuits, 1 road race, which makes up the Tri-Series.
Oh my god! And in terms of the road race itself, I mean, like you look at sort of average speeds at the TT, Ulster, that type of thing. What sort of average speed is that?
It's not at all. It's not, the average speed. We'll put it this way: we geared the bike for second gear everywhere, apart from one place where you go second, third.
Right, that twisty.
So it's kind of like a knock hill, but if it was a road with lampposts.
It's knock hill with lampposts is basically what it is.
That would blend right in with you though. So how did that work? Because obviously it was a Suzuki Tri-Series. Was it a case of, did they provide a bike from New Zealand, or did Build Base give you a bike to put in a crate to ship over there? How did it work? I'm just being nebby because I would love to do the race, but obviously I'm not as popular as you, Richard.
No, you actually are. You actually are the kind of person that you are. They thrive off. They love the road racers. That scene. They love people that are like, I said to Rutter, they love people like you, and he's like, what do you mean like me? And I said, like, who's been road racing, and they're a household name because of road racing. And you are, Dom. You're a household name because you're a road racer.
Them couple of drinks I bought you are well worth it, mate. This is, you know what I mean? This is well worth it. Just keep going, mate. I'm not going to interrupt you from now on. I know it's hard to believe, but just keep stroking that ego, and I'll tap you on the hat when I'm ready to go.
So the organizer spoke to me, and at the time I was riding for Built by Suzuki. So he was like, right, I'll get you a bike. I'll get you in a team that are running Suzuki so that it doesn't conflict with anything that you're doing. I was like, yeah, perfect. And that worked out even better for me because Sloan Frost Suzuki, which is Suzuki New Zealand, are probably one of the best run teams in the championship. So the fact that I was on a Suzuki, they placed me in that team. I got over there, and within a day, I'd got that bike working as good as my Superstock bike in the UK. The rules are the same. The only difference being you're allowed slick tyres in New Zealand, where we have to use treads in the UK. So by the end of day one, I was like, this bike feels as good as mine. And obviously, I'd just come off the back of winning Superstock, so I was in a pretty happy place and took the fight to the New Zealanders pretty much from the get-go.
So what was their stamp of riding like then, compared to like Superstock back at home? Because obviously the BSB is renowned for its world class. Is it domestic racing they call it?
Yeah.
So it's world renowned for that reason. But how did the competition fare out? Bearing in mind you were there, well, you've never been there, and you just tipped up and went for it. So were you probably taking the piss, or were they right chomping on your heels?
No. I mean, I didn't win all the races, and I only qualified pole once. I didn't get every fastest lap. I was always in a battle.
That's what you're there for.
It was. I had to raise my game, and that was something that I was a little bit dubious of because I was so far away from home. I was the other side of the world, and sometimes you want to ride like within your level, if that makes sense. But the racer in me made me push harder than what I wanted to. But that's the way I go about my things. The competition. Let's, for instance, say Shane Richardson is a rider you probably wouldn't know, Don, but Chrissy would know.
He does BSB now over here. He
does, yeah. So Shane Richardson lost the Superstock 600 Championship last year by 1 point because his gear lever fell off or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's the caliber of rider that he was up against. There's a new kid that's come over for this season in Superstock called Damien Rees, who's riding for JGR BMW.
It's James Jackson.
Superstock. James Jackson, yep.
Was he the lad taking it in Superstock 600? No, there was a New Zealand lad doing that. No, like last year he was splitting up two Irish lads, man.
That was Shane Richardson. He led
right.
pretty much the whole season, and then at the last round is Geerling.
Right.
And McGlinchey won.
That's the name.
That's right, yep.
Because he mopped up.
So there's Shane Richardson, and there's that's right. And then Damien Rees, who's come over. So them two are teammates this year in the British Superstock Championship. So for me to go over, I was like the benchmark because obviously I'd gone over as Superstock champion, and they were coming to the UK to do Superstock. But I was only ever riding like 95% because I was at a track and I was a long way from home, and I wouldn't like to give them a false sense of security because obviously I was riding hard, but for them to see the champion over there, they must have their hopes must be high, and they will go well. But Chrissy, that when you get to Oulton Park, it's a different scenario because you've got to have so much experience at those tracks. So it was, the level's tough. Let's put it that way.
To be, I was impressed with Shane this year, considering he didn't know the tracks. I know he's in 600. He'd been used to riding 1,000 over in New Zealand, and he stepped back to a 600. But to still not to turn up to tracks like Oulton and Cadwell and like Knockhill, and to have never seen them before, and to take the fight and obviously lead most of the championship was pretty impressive. Was that? Yeah. So was that the last time? In fact, one of the lads in that race, do you know Jake Lewis?
Yep, Jake Lewis.
Yeah, I used to be teammates with him years ago.
Really?
Yeah. Is he still going out with the girl race at Avalon Biddle?
Yeah.
Well, she years ago, me and Jake were teammates in European 600s, and he was like the only New Zealand lad I knew that race really. But was that the last race, that like competitive race that you've had then, or have you done anything else over the winter?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I'd sort of.
What about the South Africa race?
No, I didn't go to South Africa.
Oh, because you were going to go to Macau. There was rumours flying around that you were going to.
Yes, I was going to go to Macau, but Macau was the same time as New Zealand, and New Zealand seemed more appealing.
Not yet. No.
And you can see why now, because obviously that's where, don't look like the best place to be going at the minute.
Right, that's it. Now, hold on. Now, bearing in mind, on the old social media, they're pretty much very, very open about how the Macau Grand Prix is going to go. Now, you're riding for Macau's number one, Michael Rutter. You know what I mean? The Bathams, they literally pave the roads for him. So are you very tempted? Bearing in mind it might be the only racing going. Not even mini bike racing's looking very hot at the moment. And I can just see you trying to scratch that itch, getting on a flight to China and hopping on a fast bike. Is that? Have we talked to your lass about it yet? Is she there?
She's just disappeared actually.
Fantastic.
She got bored listening to me.
Fantastic. Talk then.
It's something that Rutter actually did ask me at the start of the year, or was it at the end of last year when we signed the deal to go to Bathams? Is Macau on my list? And it's not, to be fair, Dom. And I think now I've sort of got this. Perhaps got this New Zealand championship, a little bit. I've got a foot in the door there, then I'd be a fool not to go back in December and do that sort of thing again. I think I know what championship. I think I know what you're on about now. Not South Africa. I went to Guyana.
Something like that. It was an event on the same time. I remember because you were telling me that you made commitments before the Macau.
That's it. Yeah.
Where's this race?
South America.
South America, man.
Guyana.
Sounds the exact same as South Africa. No.
I went to Guyana with Dan Linfoot and Harry Trulov and did the final round of the Caribbean Championship. That's what I did.
Bloody hell, you get about, don't you? What was it like over there?
Good thing his lass is not there. If you're saying getting about, Chrissy.
It was it's a life experience, that's for sure. It's quite interesting. I ride for a team called Team Mohammed's, and they're the absolute factory bikes that we ride. The Graves Yamaha's bikes, shipped in from America.
I think we just had a technical breakup. Say that team name again.
Team Mohammed's.
All right, Grant. Sorry, I thought we just had a technical difficulty there. I've never heard of that team. I'm not taking the piss. I'm being genuine.
No, you wouldn't have. It's a championship you would never heard of, but the event they put on, it's in stature, it's a small circuit, but it's a massive event for, let's say, Guyana themselves, because they don't have much happening over there. So the amount of people that turn up, it's crazy. It's a funny old place to be. I went out there with Linfoot and Harry Trulov and won. I won them. I think I won 3 out of 2 races. Yeah, I did. Linfoot won 1, I won 2. That's right. So yeah, that was in October. New Zealand in December, and that was the last time I raced a bike, which I was expecting to come into pre-season testing, pretty much not even be ring rusty because I'd been riding that much, but it turns out we're all going to be a bit rusty.
And I seen that you were over in Almeria on the Bathams bike. What was your first impressions of the BMW?
You know what? This is how I'm going to break it down, right? And this is how I said it to a few people. I said, I can't knock the Suzuki because I love what it does, and I still, very appreciative of my Suzuki because I still own it. So, but the Suzuki, right? This is what it's like. The Suzuki is like a Vauxhall car, and the BMW is like a BMW car. And if you drive down the road in one of those cars, which one feels nicer to you?
Mm-hmm. I drive a Renault Traffic van, so either of them would be. But yeah,
in simple terms, to break it down, I was like, it even rolls smooth. Everything about it is so smooth. The power delivery.
As a standard road bike, it's like twice the price, isn't it? Really,
Yeah, and you can because you can buy a Suzuki for what, 14,000. Mm-hmm. And then a BMW M Sport from the dealership's 24,000, mm-hmm. and that is the difference. It doesn't make them good or bad bikes, but it's just how it feels. And my first impression was I could not believe how smooth it was, which, when you're riding it and it feels smooth, you generally doesn't feel fast, but you are going fast, if that makes sense. And that's where I was with it.
One thing I've always been interested in is, obviously there wasn't that many BMWs on the grid last year, mm-hmm. but when being on track with Andy Reid on the Tyco bike, it always say when the Aprilias are behind you, you know by the grunt. Yeah, with the Tyco BMW especially in the corners, is it the cam time and shift?
No, that's the split throttle body that's making the noise.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've always wondered like basically it
Go on,
just totally
replicate
changed.
it.
I
No,
can't replicate
Don't
it.
be a
but
soft shite, Chrissy. Go on.
It totally changes the tone of the engine in the slower corners, doesn't it? When it's
Yeah.
right lent over. What was that like from a riding point of view?
So the first couple of sessions we just rode it conventionally, as in all 4 cylinders opening all at the same time, because we wanted to get some data. You know, I'd never rode for the team before, and then in the afternoon we switched to the split throttle bodies, which is what you're talking about now. So the bike sounds like a V twin, like let's say in mid corner.
Go on, hold on, because you're not a soft shite like Chrissy. Go on. You replicate the noise.
I'm not.
Come on, what are you? If I,
Mate,
look,
the
you're
noise,
just it's like you BSB wankers. Come on, just make
You know
have
what?
some fun for God's sake. Come on.
The noise is actually sexual. It is unbelievable. Like the
Come
noise
on,
is
Richard,
like.
make the noise. Make the noise, Richard. Come on, son.
I can't make the noise. I wish I could. I wish we all could hear it. Put it that way.
So anyway, let's get back to the technical side of it. Hold on. I've got one question before you jump into that.
What's that?
Going to totally throw you off. I do apologise, but you can answer it after this. Why weren't there many BMWs on the grid? Answer that after what you've answered. I've just
Okay, so that the bike. What we got done in that one day. Bear in mind, I was working in Spain and I could only get to the track to Almeria for the last day of the 3-day test, and I had to get 2 flights because there was no direct flight to get across to Almeria and an high car and all that rubbish. And you know what? It was worth every penny to get there to ride that bike. And I'm so glad that I did now, knowing that where we are, we're actually not ridden at all. So the first test, amazingly productive. I experienced the bike, the team, and just put me like in such a good place for, let's say, proper pre-season testing, which would have been, February, March time.
With the split throttle bodies, would you set that up through GPS, or would you choose to have it on certain corners and not have it on others? Or
no. So you either have it or you don't have it. So if you choose to use it, then it will be using at all corners, and it goes off like throttle position, and I'm not quite sure if it goes off angle as well. I think it might go off angle. So let's say, for instance, if you like Almeria onto the back straight, mid corner, you get quite a lot of split, and then as you start picking it up, getting it onto the bigger part, then it starts to close the throttles to come in line. If that makes sense.
So do you know when we were racing at Donington? Do you know when Taylor and Rutter both came off in those conditions? Could that have possibly been to do with the throttle bodies going from the bit like splitting to going full power, but obviously and then hitting a bit of a damp patch and flicking them off?
Yes.
Right. Okay. I did actually wonder that at the time, because you never see Michael crash, and then for them both to crash out in the same lap or something, I thought was so unusual. But so maybe like in future, if you were riding in dodgy conditions, you just wouldn't ride with. You wouldn't.
Well, I asked that question like you just asked the question. Of course, I did. I wanted to know why and what happened that day. And so when Taylor got the bike, Alton Park, and we fought for the championship, and he ran straight on a chicane. Taylor ran the bike a conventional inline 4-cylinder, so all cylinders were working the same. He just ran it as he got it, and then Donington Park, they then switched to the split throttle bodies, which then you could say caused the crashes. It was a bit of a coincidence. Rutter never crashes us. Taylor never crashed out of a race all year, and then both time they're running that system, they both crashed. And admittedly, they did have a few teething problems. So when I switched to the throttle bodies in testing, it was the first time they'd gone back to them since that day.
Right. Okay. And how did you find that?
Coops is keen. He'll try it. He'll give it a go. Go on, son.
And it answered all the questions that they had themselves, because they got rid of those glitches. Like any new bike has teething problems, they ironed them out. And I'm not 100% sure which way I'll go yet, but it's an easy thing to do. You can go map A, map B, so you go inline or you go split. It's not something that you have to choose at the start of a weekend and then run with for the majority. It's something that you can do per session. So I'll give both a go when we get to the UK and get riding.
And also, do you know, last year I was speaking to Ian Newton before one of the podcasts. I was talking about like engine brake and strategies and all kinds. And Ian was saying on the Aprilias that they can set the both the traction control and the engine braking for basically on the GPS, so they can change it for like specific strategies for each corner. Can you do? I heard a rumor that you can do the same thing on the new BM. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. I didn't touch on it too much during that single day test that we had, but there is the option there to do it. But I mean, in all honesty, do you need that on a Superstock bike? I honestly don't think you do.
Oh no! Is every bike got that now? Has Suzuki got that? So how is that even eligible? If that makes sense, if someone's got a technology advancement, is that just tough shit if you buy a Suzuki or put your hand in your pocket and buy an Aprilia? Is that as simple as that?
Isn't it, to progress things on and at some point,
it would be a BSB, wouldn't it? If you change.
I think it's just the way racing goes, isn't it? People are always looking for advantages and stuff. And I know you're saying you probably don't need it, but it's certainly something that if you have somebody that knows what they're doing in the garage that can set that up, I'm sure that is something that you could take advantage of.
Yeah, I agree. But I think what you have to be careful of in the UK is the limited amount of time that we get on track. And if you lose a 25-minute session at Alton Park, that's not going to be easy to catch back up. So I think you've got to be careful just how far you do actually need to delve into the electronic side of things with Superstock bikes. I'll honestly tell you now that everything on my Suzuki last year was turned off, and that's how it was from the start of the season to the end. I did exactly the same in New Zealand. I got there, I turned all the electrics off, and the guys over there couldn't believe it because they ride with them all year long, and I turned them all off and then beat them all. And I think that shows like.
But your high side note is in New Zealand now with everything switched off. Like, whoop, whoop. Yeah. By the way, Richard, I've grown to like you. I like you as a person. So, I'm going to offer a very legit service here. You know what I mean? If you want to have a word with Michael Rutter, I'll run your bike at Macau for you. And I'll try any button you want. You know what I mean? If you just get on the phone and I'll obviously fill in your spot for the Bathams team at the Macau Grand Prix. I'm 100% willing. And it's a one-time offer, mate. And, you've got to seize it. So get on the phone to Rutter and get a mast.
All right, I'll do that for you.
He doesn't want to. We can do like that.
And also, I've been reading today about obviously the way things are. Nobody really knows what's happening. Governments, jobs, whatever. But obviously, BSB are looking at different contingency plans for different strategies for the end of the season. Can you see any racing taking place this year? And if so, what do you think could possibly work?
Do you want my honest answer?
Yeah.
Right, this is where I am with it. Okay. I think if racing goes ahead, and I've only said this to a few people. I mean, how many people listen to the show now?
2 million, something like that. So, so we're getting there. We're ticking on by, mate.
I think we're about 150,000 downloads.
So I'll give my theory of what could happen. It could upset a few people, but this is what I think could potentially happen. I think if racing goes ahead, only the premier classes will go racing this year. And that will be, let's say, MotoGP. So you don't get Moto2, you don't get Moto3. World Superbike goes on its own. And unfortunately, I think BSB and maybe Supersport, the people that sell the TV, people that have got the big brands in, Stu Higgs has got to get his sponsorship money in. And to do that, he's got to put bikes on TV.
I read a news article that was talking about that sort of thing, but Stuart was basically saying the idea of running the racing behind closed doors sort of goes against what BSB is about, and it's just economically not unsustainable. Like you couldn't do it economically. It would be such a surreal feeling racing in with nobody there and an empty paddock.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if that's so, do you think that could possibly happen?
I think, I hope I'm wrong. Of course, I hope I'm wrong. But I think as Superstock riders, Superstock 600, Superstock 1000, we are in theory nothing in that paddock. We're just like stocking fillers. We just fill the time gaps between the superbike going out, and that is the bottom line. Because I've been a superbike rider, and I've been a superstock rider, and I know that superbike is always priority, and that's because it's the premier class.
Yeah,
so for that reason, if the premier class can go racing, then all their sponsors are happy, and you can put it on TV on a Sunday. And I sort of think that's why I think that. And you'll keep the numbers low in the paddock because you won't have all, you know what it's like, Chrissy, like you struggle to get your caravan parked. There's that many people in the paddock.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of think that could happen, which will be a shame if it does, because obviously we're not in the premier class. So it means we won't go racing. And it'll be a difficult year. Just sat there watching, that's for sure.
I personally think that we won't see any real racing this year, especially international racing, just because of the complications in different countries, different laws, traveling about and stuff. I think that especially the international racing, it just adds such a massive there's other dynamics to it that just make it so difficult. But even BSB, at the end of the day, the virus is going to still be here all this year. Yeah. And really, until we get a vaccine sorted, like for example, if it gets to September and let's say there's like half the country still hasn't had the virus yet, will people really want to go and gather at a racetrack knowing that they're putting themselves at risk and the families at risk by I just don't see it happening, to be honest. I really hope I'm wrong. I would love, obviously, as soon as the green light goes and we can race, obviously I'll be there straight away. But I think this year is just going to be a write-off, and people, hopefully, if we can get a vaccine sorted before the start of next year, and start afresh for 2021. But like I say, I hope I'm wrong, and I would soon as the any lockdown constraints are lifted, I'll be straight out either on my motocross bike or whatever. But I cannot see any racing going ahead. And I was just speaking to Dom about this as well. Obviously, if you think of all the companies and all the brands that put a lot of money into the bike racing, and if they're off for months and they've got employees to pay and the sort of sponsorship money for people to go racing, that's when everyone's doing well, businesses are going well, and there's a bit of cream on the top, then everyone's happy dishing out a bit of sponsorship. If you've got a local electrician or plumber can stick a couple of grand and everyone can go race and have a good time. But times like this where people are struggling to pay the mortgages and just get back, survive, the sort of extra money for going racing, it's going to be extremely tight. And especially for the young lads and lasses that are coming through the junior ranks, say if their parents put all the money together that they earn and they can just scrape enough to do Supersport 300 or whatever, after a time like this, it's going to be so difficult. And I know that if I was in this position say 10 years ago when I was coming through, I'm sure that this economically would have had a huge impact and might have even stopped me from progressing. So
No, I think you're dead on right. I think you're right.
On that positive note,
I was about to say, after I've just slipped my wrists there, Chrissy, thank you very much. We had such a good interview.
Back to the 47th podcast for Chasing the Racing, and so
this hey, hold on, we're asking the questions, Richard. Why you let him go for it?
So Chrissy messaged me in the week. He says, "Do you still want to do a little something for this 47th show?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely. Probably more reason to do something than ever, because people are a little bit down. People are
now they are excited. After that speech.
And when racing goes, they're going to be excited, people. And I said to Chrissy that I wanted to do something, so I proposed a bit of a competition. I've sent Chrissy a picture that we are going to is going to be the competition, which is going to be a caption competition. And we'll have to read through the comments and the captions once it gets, once you guys put it out there, and I will pick a winner. And what I propose is 2 weekend tickets to any BSB of their choice, with a tour around the garage. It won't be much because we're not a Superbike team now, but it still will be impressive. And just a bit of face to face with myself and and give you that experience of a weekend. And it helps you guys out and it helps me out, and it's the 47th one, so why not do it?
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, really a really nice offer, and somebody will be in with a lucky, good chance. I've just shown Dom the picture there. It's a cracker, and I'm sure there'll be good. I'm sure there'll be some good suggestions. So yeah, we'll put that out on the social media, and whichever caption, like the best caption for that picture, two tickets to BSB and a garage tour. Which, like I say, I mean, everyone talks about the Bathams bikes and like how well presented they are, and so to come into the garage, and obviously they'll probably get to meet Michael. And I'm actually reading Michael's autobiography at the moment, which is good crack. I'll have to get him on the show at some point. But yeah,
that would be quite interesting actually, because he's very dry sense of humour. He's quite amusing, really. It's quite good.
We're only going to get him on after a couple of rides with you, son, so we can get proper gossip like that and a proper thick black country accent. Is shit.
And so over the next few months, I mean, I take it you're off work at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough times because I'm self-employed, Danielle's self-employed. Without going too disheartened about it, we should have been getting married in June. We've had to change that. We should have been going on honeymoon. That's had to be changed. It's been tough at home to sort of keep smiling, but it is what it is, and we've got to get on with it. And
just get Danielle, that. Just get your championship trophy on the mantelpiece. Just keep looking at that, and that'll keep you smiling.
I can always come down and bash your bush, though. You keep on that tree.
The bush doesn't need bashing, to be fair. It's absolutely massive at the minute.
Congratulations, by the way, for getting engaged to Danielle, and it's like I say, unfortunate that everything's been postponed, but it'll be all worth it in the end. How did you pop the question, by the way? Was it traditional?
How long have we been engaged now? 5 years. 3 years. I actually.
So that is the end of your marriage already. How long have we been together?
We've been together. We've been together like 8 years. We've been engaged 3 years, and actually, what I did is I flew to Australia premium class. And then
the championship bonus.
With the championship bonus, and I actually asked her on the beach in Australia on Christmas Day. So yeah, it was pretty romantic. It was.
And obviously, her immediate reaction was no. So how did you talk around?
Immediate reaction was, "Oh, is the ring so small because you had to come all the way to Australia to do it?"
But obviously, congratulations yet again to the pair of you, and obviously, there'll be obviously you can live together through this lockdown, so that's a good sign for a long-lasting marriage, which is fantastic. But obviously, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're looking forward to getting this competition out there and getting the prize, getting dished out. Can't wait.
Yeah, we'll have to liaise back and forth to pick the winner. And I'm sure you've seen the picture, Dom, and that's pretty much the size I like them. So you work it out from that.
Good. Yeah, so I'll stick it on the Chasing the Race Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So people can just go on whatever social media that they've got, and that's mega, mate. Thanks very much. And just hope you and the family take care, and we'll catch up whenever the racing starts up again. But thanks for coming back on, and we'll speak to you soon, mate. Take care.
Thanks for having me. Cheers, boys.
Right, see you a bit.
Bye.
So what a kind giveaway that is. A good chance to win 2 tickets to any BSB meeting and a garage tour from the Bathams BMW team whenever the season eventually kicks off.
I'm looking forward to people seeing that photo, mind. It is funny. Obviously, I showed it just while we're doing the interview, and it is a cracker. Because I've got a fair few rude ones I could put in there. But obviously, I'm not allowed to bloody win it. Damn it.
So we'll stick that on all the social media. So head over to there and then just have your best go at a funny caption. And obviously, we'll leave it to Richard to pick the winner.
Fantastic. Hey, what have you got lying on the table here then, son?
So it was actually
out?
Captain Kawasaki himself, Craig.
Kawasaki.
He sent us over a lovely... so it's originally from Billy Art. Basically, they had Billy Art on the Kawasaki stand at the NEC. I think it was not this year, last year. And so he was on doing like live drones on the stand.
All right.
I'll post some pictures of we've got pictures from various stages of the drone, but it's a phenomenal drone. It's an A3 size. It's of Leon Haslam on the
Suzuki
John Guest Kawasaki, and it's 10 out of 20 artist proofs. It's all signed. It's signed by Leon, and it comes with a certificate of authenticity. And so it's 10 out of 20 artist proofs. So it's like a limited edition, proper. I mean, have you seen it? You know,
it's hella sharp-minded.
Don't
Don't get anything on the back of it, man. Gee, come on, Chrissy, hold your professionalism, man.
Look at the concentration in his eyes and like the detail and all the carbon fibre. It's a phenomenal bit of work. So yeah,
that is hella sharp-minded.
We'll stick that on the old social media, and if you just retweet this episode, retweet or repost on Instagram story or share on Facebook.
And then say a big thank you to Captain Kawasaki for sorting that one out there. Well done, Captain Young'un. Well done.
We'll pick somebody to send this out to. So yeah, you just have to share the post on whatever social media platform. For your best chance of winning, share it on all. And we'll pick somebody to send that to. So yeah, big thanks to Captain Kawasaki for that one. Have you got any bits and bobs to tie things up?
Just no, not really. Hopefully, we'll just get a bit more crack flowing in bit by bit. Because obviously, I think we briefly touched on in the interview with bloody hell, man, background audience here, piss off, do. No, so we briefly touched on it in the episode. The episode, man, my brain's gone to pot here. The interview, sorry, about the Macau Grand Prix. They seem really adamant that it's going to happen. What do you make of that? Like, I hope it does. Mm-hmm. I really bloody hope it does.
It would be ironic, the Chinese the virus starting in Wuhan, spreading all around the world, stopping the whole world from racing, and then they host the only bike race.
It'll be mint, wouldn't it? It'll be so good.
It would be ironic, but yeah, obviously, just in the interest of bike racing, obviously, I would like it to go ahead, something to watch.
It'll be phenomenal. Well, they haven't actually scrubbed Armoy. They haven't scrubbed the Classic TT. And obviously, the BSB hasn't been totally scrubbed. But, if they took away all hope, I think people would be jumping off the short drop and the sudden stop situation. You know what I mean?
The thing is, we don't actually know where the peak is. We'll only know when the peak has been looking backwards. Aye. But we don't actually know if we're on a peak now or if we're, whatever.
We're still on the climb.
Earlier this week, we had 3 days in a row where the death rate fell on three consecutive days, and then it shot up to 800 odd, then 900 odd. So it's really difficult to say, but hopefully, I mean, the most optimistic you could possibly be would probably say something starting in July, August-ish.
Yeah.
But it's like it's fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll get something.
If it took it all away, I think I'd be like, you would. You know what I mean? Honestly, Chrissy, I've lost sight of my penis. My gut line's totally gone out. That weight loss challenge. I'm gonna have to do another one. We're gonna have to do another one. But I'm desperate for it, man. Like, the thing is, we're staying indoors, man. It's a bit like just watching crap on Netflix. Chrissy,
what are you watching at the moment?
I tell you what, mate. Right, I've watched absolutely everything. It's sign of the times, man. When you start watching pornography to get involved in the storyline, I'm sitting there, right, with snacks, going, "Oh, mint, what's the plumber gonna do? Oh, that leak's never gonna get plugged properly. Oh, wait, the electrician's walked in. I'm like, this is mint. Me mom's walking in. Mom, get out! Get yourself sat down. The storyline's thickening, and then they just start banging each other. And you're like, this is actually pretty tasteless, really. They didn't need that. The storyline was that inviting. I didn't have to get involved. Signs of the times, Chrissy. Signs of the times. But there we go. Awkward for you as well, eh? There you are. It's good to hear.
Just a few other bits and bobs that I wanted to just get into this podcast. There's you probably won't know Andy. Guy from, he goes to all the BSBs, goes by the name of Candyman, and he's just been taken into the RVI for I think he's had a fall and like took a bang to the head, and he's I don't think he's in a particularly good place at the moment. So just a little shout out to Andy. like I said, I'm not entirely sure of his injuries and how he's getting on,
yeah.
but I do know he's in the RVI at the moment. So yeah, big shout out to Candyman, and also a good friends of ours, Joan and Helen, who
Yes,
come to the
North Yorkshire,
yeah, massive supporters of the club and the sport in general, and very sadly, Joan's partner Ken has just passed away today. So just obviously
best wishes to the family.
Yeah, exactly. Best wishes to the family and rest in peace. Very sad news, but I just wanted to get that into the podcast.
No, don't blame me, mate. And obviously, I think we can extend that even further. Anyone who's been directly affected, not just career-wise. I mean, as far as losses across the country, and obviously all our listeners, if anyone's
Difficult
directly
times,
getting signs of the times. But but on a little bit. Hopefully, you've all enjoyed this podcast. As you know, we enjoy doing them, and yeah.
We've actually got another podcast coming very soon. I won't spoil the guest, but we have got a good podcast lined up. So
because we're in the pirate industry now, Chrissy, it's war the podcast, so we're reeling in the enemies. That's a hint. There we are. But we'll leave that till next time. So take care, everyone, and we'll catch up soon. See you in a bit, Chrissy lad.